Excellent. Okay, I'm going to share my screen.
Oh, hi, this is fine.
I thought she was going to be in person.
Either
Oh,
way,
come on in. Come on in. Okay, so here's my notes so I don't forget to say it. Make sure you have something to make notes on. You got something to make notes, something to write with, something to write on. This is just for you, so it can be anything you want. My very favorite is used envelopes. Nice and thick, nice and thick, an unusual shape. They stand out. Okay, so we're talking about where did my time go? Sarah Scribbles is one of my favorite comics, so I'm including a few comics here. This one is from Sarah Scribbles. She says, my abilities, intelligence, pretty good. Memory, also good. She's jumping across a bar graph here. Creativity, good too. Time management. Where is it? So thank you to Sarah Anderson and Sarah Scribbles. So we're all here today because we have desires, we have aspirations. We're going to do it better this time, right? Something like that. So let's start with, can you come up with a word that describes your relationship with all of these things in my head are interchangeable. You can pick whatever term resonates with you the most with your time last semester, your schedule, your to-do list. A word that sums that up for you. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, by the way, throughout the session, and you are welcome to share or not share. That's completely up to you. And for those of you who don't know me, I forget I didn't introduce myself. I'm Kristen Croyle. I'm the Dean for Liberal Arts, Sciences, and Engineering, also a psychologist. And I have great aspirations about managing my time better. Okay, anyone want to share their word? Or if you came up with multiple words, you're welcome to share multiple.
Mine is runaway train.
That's good. I like that. Runaway train.
I
think
said
there's some
I said sporadic.
sporadic. Yeah.
I like sporadic. I want to steal that one. I said better because it was better than the year before. But it's also sporadic, so that
I didn't come up with a word to describe my time, but I would say my attention was divided, and so that affected my time.
Is this where I talk? I'm actually in a classroom. This is Juliet. I thought we were
Juliet!
meeting here.
Yay,
I
Juliet.
should have stayed home. I was going to say chaotic.
Chaotic. I love that. Mine actually is eternally hopeful. Every time there is like a day on my calendar that comes up with like 5 hours in a row that are unscheduled, I'm like, I'm going to do everything. Those days end up being bad days for me, by the way, because there's actually not any way to do everything in 5 hours. Only way to do like two things. The Awkward Yeti is another one of my favorite comics. So this one is from the Awkward Yeti. And this is brain and heart talking together. I don't understand. I keep doing the same thing, but nothing changes. Heart says, should we do something different? And brain thinks about it and says, no, we should do the same things, but harder. So our goal here for all of us is to move from a reactive to a proactive relationship with our schedules because oftentimes what we find is that you have all the best plans laid and a million things start coming at you. Some of them are small and some of them are big. Your students all have different needs at different times. You got somebody with a cheating issue and then it takes up suddenly another 10 hours. There's just a million things coming at you. So the goal here is to feel more in control and productive. And by the way, I use the word feel there on purpose, to feel more in control and productive, because a lot of this is about how you feel about it, because all of you are very productive people. You don't need to be more productive, but it would help to also feel like you're centered and in control of what is happening to you instead of being buffeted by the winds of everybody else's needs and all the different things that are coming at your schedule. So here's a question for you. Where did your time go last semester? If you felt like things were just too much, how many of these apply to you? Sarah says all of them. Thank you, Sarah. So you knew from the beginning that there were going to be too many commitments. Yeah, some of you definitely. You underestimated how long things would take. Those of us who have teaching as a regular role, I know we've all experienced this. Like that one terrible year where I decided my students should all design games, and it ended up taking me like 30 extra hours. Or the writing assignment that you give that you think this is going to be so great for the students, and it takes like an hour per student of coaching. Yeah. So that you underestimate how long things are going to take. Too many demands throughout the semester that came up and up and up. Just don't know. So busy all the time. And still the same list. Things aren't getting done. Had some unexpected emergencies that really took a lot of time. And this isn't the whole list, right? There could be other things that your time went to. This is mostly work oriented. These all have different potential interventions. And remember, this is about control. So getting a sense of where things went, how to kind of head that off from the beginning, increases your sense of control over your schedule. So, for example, if you know you have too many things from the outset, we can work together on focusing on goals, boundaries, and priorities. That's actually one of the things that we're going to focus on today. Underestimating how long things would take, especially if it's a repetitive task or something that you have to do as a regular part of your job. You can try timing your most common tasks. So for example, I know if I've done a very quick pass through my email and then I have to sit down and actually work through it, it actually takes me, I can do 10 emails an hour. That's how long they take me, because they're all different and they all take different thought, and some of them take looking for resources and 10 an hour. So if I've got 40 emails to catch up on, that's going to take me 4 hours. And it helps me to feel more in control. And also less guilty when I spend an hour on it and I've only done 10. I know, Laura, you know how long it takes you to do some of your grading per student, right? Yeah. So it helps you feel in control and be able to set aside the right amount of time. Too many demands, another issue of focusing on goals and setting boundaries. I just don't know. Every so often, it might be a good idea to do a time audit for a few days. Make some notes. It doesn't have to be that detailed. We're not talking like lawyer style billing where you have to account for each minute in which case it goes to. But a time audit throughout a few days and say, well, this is how much I spent on this, and this is how much I spent on this. Which one of them were my priorities? Which one of them were responding to other people's demands? How much of it was on teaching prep, how much was responsive to students, how much of it was dealing with an emergency, a time audit, so that you can get a sense of where things are going. And then some unexpected emergencies. This is, if they're truly unexpected, you just give yourself some grace and you say, well, that was a terrible semester. There were some really terrible emergencies, and focus on building your support network. So when people say, how can I help? You say, yeah, I could really use some help. Can you take this off my plate for now? That is not a time management issue. That's giving yourself grace. So we're going to focus primarily on goals and boundaries. So first, another moment to think. What do you find to be the most meaningful work that you do each week? If you think of all the different activities that you do, where do you find the most meaning and satisfaction? Jot down one or two things. You got something on there? So there's a study that was published in the Archives of Internal Medicine in 2009. Tate Shanafelt and colleagues studied about 500 physicians, and they asked them what aspect of their work was most meaningful to them. And for some of them, it was teaching medical students. For others, it was doing research or working with patients. It didn't have to be the same thing for everybody. But according to the authors, no matter what activity was specifically meaningful to respondents, the amount of their work week focused on that activity had a strong inverse relationship to burnout. In fact, physicians who spent 20% or more of their time in their most meaningful activity had half the burnout rate as those who did not. So aim for at least 20%. So if you get the most joy out of working directly with students, aim for about at least 20% of your time in directly interacting with students. I get a lot of satisfaction from directly supporting people, but also in design of programs, design of like, how do we make the thing that is like this and make it like this so it's beautiful so that we can assess it and we can say this thing is really working. So I need to be able to have both some time in my week that is directly supporting people and the good work they do, but also some time to think more abstractly about how we design, how we're assessing different programs. I also really enjoy direct teaching. Tim, that's a great answer. Blending your own research with class material. And as a side note, I try to use multiple words here because different words resonate with different people. So I said, what's meaningful, or where do you find satisfaction? What are you proud of? What do you enjoy? All of those are similar terms, and some of those align with some people and some align with others. So let's set some goals for the semester. Let's aim for 2 or 3. Pick 2 or 3 things that you think you want to get done this semester. And I will say that I just said get done this semester. So get to a point where you feel like you've achieved something. So pick something that you think you can do in a semester. If you said, I'm going to write a book and you haven't started, don't pick that. It's not a semester project. And I'm going to give you like 2 minutes for this.
There's a question in the chat. Maria asking 20% of what? Is it work time, of waking time, etc.?
Working hours, let's say. Okay, we got a couple things in mind, and obviously this is just like we're just skating on the surface here, right? Skating on the surface. So something that you'll continue to think about. So how would we work these into the semester? So if you're going to work on one of those goals, you'd list out the important steps that you need to take to reach that goal. So if you want to submit a paper, for example, and you've got data collected, you could clean the data as the first step. You could update your literature review that you did before you designed the project, but new stuff has come out. You're going to go back and refresh and make sure you've got all your most recent things, start to run the analyses, and list out the steps. If you want to get that submitted by the end of the semester, then you start from the end of the semester and you say, I'm going to submit on this day and schedule out those steps up to the beginning of the semester. Similarly, if one of your goals is that you're going to do no email on the weekends, that you've made that a goal, except emergencies, maybe. You could start by blocking your time on Friday to deal with urgent tasks so that they don't hang over, and blocking your time on Monday to deal with urgent tasks that came up since then. You could also set up phone alerts so that the only email notifications you get are for critical senders. I have those set up on my phone. I've got a list of critical senders where if something comes through, I will see a notification like I've got the president and the SUNY lawyer and the provost and Lisa Evanesky. You know, a few of those people. Or something comes through, you're like, better look at that. But, they don't email me very much on the weekends. So most of the time I can look if I choose to look. I can ignore if I choose to ignore. So setting a list of the important steps you need to take, matching it to your calendar. Now, we could spend some time to do that, but we'd need like 10 to 15 minutes. So I'm going to let you do that on your own time.
Can you go back a minute? It's Juliet.
Sure.
Can you explain what you mean by block time on calendar Friday? Block time on Fridays and Mondays? So you're saying take emails then, but okay.
So for example, if you really wanted to not do email over the weekend, what would make that possible for you? So for some people, it would, if they have critical tasks that they've just left, they wouldn't be able to take the weekend to not do that. So they may need to set time on their schedules right now for every Friday for the rest of the semester as a special time to take care of the urgent things so that they can get them off their mind so they don't have to do it over the weekend. So saying, I have some of those blocks on my schedule that say, try for no meetings during this time because I need to do project work or I need to do email work. But for some people, that wouldn't make the difference. So instead, you think to yourself, if this is what my goal is, what is it that would make this possible for me? So if this isn't what would make it possible, what would make it possible? So as I said, we'd be adding blocks of time on your calendar throughout the semester for each of the steps. And if you tend to underestimate how much time things will take, add more time than you think it's going to take. 1.5 to 2 times the amount of time you think it's going to take. If you know that's a regular issue. So here we have Sarah Scribbles again. Present me and future me. So much work. That's okay. If we divide the work equally, neither of us have to, and then present me pushes all the work onto future me. She says, suffer. If you're not regularly using your Google Calendar or a calendar, I highly recommend it. For one thing, everybody else uses your calendar, whether or not you know it. They're all looking for when you have time available. If you block time, it helps to protect the time that you need to spend on your important goals so that when other people are looking for time to meet with you, they don't pick the critical time that you need to focus. What about revisiting boundaries and saying, no, are we good with this? We're good. We can just skip on. No? Okay. This one, Poorly Drawn Lines, another great series of cartoons. The cat says, can't come closer so I can kill you. And the bird says, no, thanks. I'm working on saying no to more things. And the cat says, that's cool. Guess I just won't kill anything today. And the bird says, well, now I feel bad. And of course, they have amazing facial expressions. So trying on new boundaries. This is a constant struggle, right? We're all trying on new boundaries all the time. So it's a time to revisit it. Time management, in many cases, is not about doing more. It's especially not about doing more for any of the people in this session. All of you are doing plenty. It's instead about choosing what to focus on and what to set aside, or what to kind of do in a half-assed kind of way, we'll say. So part of that is saying no, um, which I wasn't going to focus much on, but we can do a quick version. Give me your top 3 tips for saying no to somebody asking you to do a new thing.
I do better with the no that isn't an absolute no, to say right now my schedule on that is full, so I can't take it on, but it sounds really interesting. If it sounds interesting, um, I'll get back in touch with you if there's a time it does work. So that's one.
Excellent. That's excellent. Give me another one.
I do kind of a variation of that. I got some requests last week to judge like student posters at the AMS conference, and I said something like, I'm going to be really busy next week. If you still need people as of next Monday, please let me know.
Oh, that's
Um,
nice. Because you actually are kind of willing, but
mhm,
if somebody else would do it, that would be great. Yeah,
yeah.
that's a great answer. Give me another one.
Uh, I'm I'm not good at this. I can't say no to people.
Let's give Ali Reza a suggestion. How about 24-hour waiting period? When somebody asks you to do something and it's going to
Okay.
take a fair amount of time, not just like, can you please do this quick thing? A fair amount of time.
Okay.
Give yourself 24 hours before you respond. You don't have to
Does
say
it,
yes, you don't have to say no. Just give yourself 24 hours to think about it. It can help.
but then I have to do it, right?
Let's give him one more. You got a no committee. You got somebody you can go to that will help you weigh new requests.
Uh,
How many of you have somebody that you go to if you have a significant new request and you're trying to figure out, oh, is this worth the time? Should I say yes? Should I say no? Do you have somebody that you kind of consult with? I ask Paul Tomaszek and Emily Estrada because they're right here and they're brilliant people. I'm like, this thing, it's this the big thing. It's going to take a lot of time. You know what I'm working on. What do you think? You have a little committee. Laura and Juliet, do you ever ask each other?
Yeah, I was going to say, I ask Laura.
Mhm.
She usually tells me don't do it.
Well, that's easy with Juliet because she does all the things. I sometimes will ask a person important to me who's not part of my work world because they hear about how overwhelmed I am and how I don't have time for like these other things I value. And they're like, no, what are you talking about? So sometimes talking to somebody outside of work helps. And like some in the past I've taken notes for myself on times I regularly overcommit, like much less than I used to, but when that happens some semesters and I get totally overwhelmed, I take notes that are like, do not do this to yourself again. You are not allowed to blank. And then I go back to those notes. I used to in college, I was a piano performance major, and I'd agree to accompany just everybody under the sun. And it got so bad that I had like a sign that said, "You may not accompany anyone else." And so, like, I was so tempted to say yes, but I'd be like, and I'd feel bad. I'd be like, I am so sorry. I really want to do this, but I am not allowed to say yes because my past self got really mad at me. So if it's working for you, go with it. But I've gotten myself into trouble so many times that those things are helpful for me going forward.
The other secret in academia is that the longer you work in the same position, the longer your list of commitments gets. And this is almost invariably if you are a committed contributing person. Think of all the people you work with who have so many fingers in different things. Yes. And the way to keep that managed is by reducing your effort in different areas, bringing in a collaborator, bringing in somebody, if you're a senior faculty, bringing in a junior faculty member, to kind of letting some of those commitments wither. But it doesn't mean you don't have a little tendril there. But this is one of the aspects of academic work that we are interested people that really enjoy collaboration. We enjoy doing fun, interesting things. So the longer you're in a position, the more threads there are. And it's more about keeping the total the total commitment to something that is doable, not the total number of projects, because that total number is going to increase and increase. I add Laura's suggestion to the one in, one out.
Related to Laura's story about getting overcommitted, another thing that's helpful to think about is, like when you're saying no to something, you're actually saying yes to being able to do something else, or yes to being able to take care of yourself.
Excellent. Thank you. So let's try out a few new boundaries. And of course, none of this is new, right? None of this is new. But a few boundaries to refresh and think about again. I'm going to share in the chat a list of possibilities. Take a look. Let's spend, I don't know, 3 or 4 minutes. Why don't you pick at least 2 that you might want to try for the first time or relaunch or recommit to. I'm going to stop sharing for a minute.
When I go on Zoom, I can see this, right?
Let me know if you can't open it.
John.
Kristen, the list that you just the bulleted list you just did on the slide, are those on the Google Doc, or will you be adding those?
How about I put them in the chat right now? Okay, another 10 seconds. We've got a new comic here. Another Heart and Brain Awkward Yeti comic. You'll drive yourself mad trying to fix everything on your list. You need to relax and do everything on my list. This is Heart speaking. And if you can read Heart's list says pet small animals, pet medium animals. Oh, and a horse. Dolphin? Question mark. Yes. Big animals too. Lots of petting animals. So what appealed to you? So far, we've got the Got a Minute appealed to Mamta, thank you, and the Meeting Free Zone for Alireza, and the Good Enough Threshold, that's good too. The Hard Stop, if you got kids in daycare, you have already learned that one. I don't know, maybe it was just me. My daycare used to charge me $5 a minute if I was late, so that taught me to do a hard stop. I have $15 to be 3 minutes late when I first started using that daycare. What else appealed to you? Other ideas that weren't on the list that you think are useful to share?
Well, I meet with a lot of students, so I do the 50-minute block. I always build in time between appointments to breathe, refresh, whatever, share. Like we're our office right now is in a lot of what are the small wins, trying to keep positive in the light of the bigger picture being a little stressful. And so I'll often use that time to share those small wins if I meet with a student that's really made me feel good about my job.
Yeah. Yeah. What else? Thank you, Sharon. And you can feel free to share things on the list or off the list.
I like, this is Juliet. I like everything that has to do with the boundaries around emails. I have to say, I'm horrible about checking them constantly. And I never thought about it in terms of being a negative for the person receiving it, because then if I respond so quickly, then they're always going to expect that. And I never thought about it in terms of that.
Mm.
So I'm going to do all four of those. I think that
Okay.
sounds great. I mean,
Good luck. Good luck. Did you write it down?
oh,
Are y'all writing these down? I said take notes. Write them down. Are you okay? Good.
yeah.
The response window, the no notification deep work, stick to the 50-minute meeting window. So we're liking the 50-minute window, deep work. Schedule send. We're going to talk about schedule send in just a minute. Michael, what does schedule send help you with? I don't know if you're in a position to be able to talk, though. Anybody else use schedule send a lot?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the schedule send. Um, and also on the email front, combining that with the good enough. One of my goals for myself is to not over respond in email. Like I think I can take more time than emails demand in terms of like, and here is this context, and here's this like they don't want that probably, and it's taking me more time. So yeah, trying to shorten that.
That can be hard, but also it can increase readability. So it can actually make a better response if you have a shorter response because people are less likely to misinterpret what you're saying or get lost in the thread.
And instead of spending all the time on the email, like sometimes I will just say, hey, can we schedule a time to talk?
Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, just to add to that, sometimes when I find myself writing a long email, which is often, I admit, I check myself and I say, wait a minute, if it needs to be more than a few lines, it should actually be a conversation. And then it's much more efficient to have that conversation and get it done quickly. One of the challenges that I am having is, though, sometimes I want to have those conversations with other offices on campus.
Yeah.
And
it has to be an email in some cases, right?
well, they're not always receptive to having the conversation.
Yeah.
Or so there's like a
and
cultural.
Sometimes you need it documented too. So then it's
true.
Then it's an email. And that's not just like for legal reasons or for a commitment. Sometimes that's just for memory. Like, I am definitely not going to remember this. We better write it down right now.
But you can also document the conversation in
Yes.
some shared notes.
Yes. I'm starting a new slide here. We haven't talked about lots of other principles. But I wanted to give people an opportunity to share what has been helpful for them so far, because it could be helpful to other people in the group. What's been helpful to you in feeling like you are managing, you are in control of your time and your week? What are some practices that have been helpful to you?
So I want to jump in there. I bought myself this little timer cube that has 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30, and 60 minutes on it. And I flip it I assign 30 minutes to a task. I have many that need to be done. So it's 30 minutes on one. When it rings, I get up, move around to move my body a little bit, and come back and do 30 minutes either again on that task for up to an hour, or I switch tasks because I have to move a bunch of projects forward. But I do that for the morning, and then I get so buried deeply in whatever that I stop doing it.
Excellent. What else? What else has been helpful to you? Oh, and Daniela, what's the name for what you're doing in most cases? And what's the background? Pomodoro is you work on it for 25 minutes, take a big break for 5. You do that several times, and then you take a longer break. What's the story about why it's called Pomodoro? One of us can share.
Isn't it like the timer was shaped like a little tomato or something? Yes. And that's where the name, which I just love.
Yes. Yes. The guy who came up with it named it after his timer. The Italian word for tomato is Pomodoro. It's a good
May I
technique.
ask a question?
Yes.
It's more about like the beginning of the talk. You said it's important to feel that you are in control, right? But what happens to me is, I feel I have control over my time, but actually I'm not able to do things that are not on my, first priority list. So I do the important stuff, but something that's not very important, but I still have to do it. It just keeps staying there, and I have a feeling that I have control, but after like a month, I see I haven't done anything on that thing. I don't know what to do like in those
I
cases.
hear you. One of the jobs that I had, I got to the point where I felt like I couldn't make progress on any of my big goals. So I had to write down like 2 things I wanted to achieve for the whole week. And I would feel good if I could get to those 2 things. So congratulations on getting to the big stuff. That's excellent. But how do you get to the second tier? That's the question, right?
Yes.
Suggestions for Alireza.
I put reminders on my calendar, Alireza. Like, for example, if the task is due a month later, first week, second week, with the small steps. I think sometimes uh, initially what used to happen with me is the task would overwhelm me. But if you do it in smaller tasks, you divide it into steps and put a reminder on your calendar, and you can easily do those steps, the task is almost done by the time the due date comes in. So that helped me.
So either setting calendar reminders or actually calendar time saying step 1 is this, step 2 is this, step 3 is here, and deadline is here. That's good.
If I have a lower tier task that involves collaborators, sometimes I will try to schedule meetings with those collaborators to kind of add some intermediate deadlines or a little bit of extra accountability to make sure that those things still move forward.
Yeah.
So here's a hard one for you. What if the things that you need to get done, some of them you really hate, and you're struggling with avoidance for those things because you hate doing them. So it's really hard to get started on them. What are some suggestions for the things you don't want to do, but you got to do them anyway?
Getting them done earlier in the day when your brain is fresh, so it's not as hard, and then you don't have to like think about it and like dread it all day long or feel guilty if you don't do it.
Doing them first thing, it helps both because you have more energy. It helps because you can refocus on things you enjoy. But also because those feelings of avoidance and anxiety tend to build, and the more they build, the more avoidant you will be. So if you can do them first thing in the day before they've had an opportunity to build, you actually feel less avoidant and anxious.
One strategy,
Oh, go ahead.
one strategy that's often suggested is temptation bundling, that if you tie the less pleasant things to something that you feel as a reward, that can help it. So that once you complete a portion of it, you give yourself some type of reward of doing something that you enjoy.
I'm also putting on the do it for 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Just tell yourself, I'm just going to do it for 2 minutes. You can even set a timer, a 2-minute timer. I'm going to do this thing for 2 minutes because what you're trying to do is trick yourself over the avoidance in that case. Like, I really don't like it. I can handle anything for 2 minutes. You can get like a filling for 2 minutes. You do it. It's not a problem. You can do hard physical exercise for 2 minutes you don't want to do. You can do anything for 2 minutes. Just do it for 2 minutes because often if you can do it for 2 minutes, and then tell yourself how awesome that was that you did it, it overcomes the avoidance hump, and then you can finish up.
I do.
So, Kristen, I was
Go ahead.
reading. Sorry. I was reading something yesterday. Martin Luther King said, if you cannot walk, you can crawl. If you cannot crawl, you can, move slowly, tiptoe, whatever. The idea is, I think, to make progress, whether you do it for a minute or whether you do it for an hour. And I think once we get into that routine of making progress of some nature, that also helps in that sense. Something I want to say to the point before that you wrote about, I believe it's called eating the frog. When you say do the difficult
Yes, it
task.
is. It's an unfortunate but yes, it's from a Mark Twain quote. Do you know the Mark Twain quote? If you eat a frog, something like if you eat a frog in the morning, it'll be everything else the rest of the day will be easier. He said it much better and it's much more humorous, but that's the gist of it.
Yeah.
I know. I would really like a quote that doesn't involve eating a frog, but I haven't found one.
Sorry, Laura, you please go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say this is kind of similar to something Tim said about like doing the work and then having a short reward. I have a group that I do co-working stuff with, and we'll meet over Zoom. And what we do is we meet for 10 minutes to say what we're going to do. Then we work for 50 minutes, and then we get back on the Zoom for 10 minutes to say like what we did. And these are also like really close friends. So we say what we did, but we also like talk about life and stuff. But it's got to be people who will keep it to 10 minutes and then you go back to work. But that I use that for the things that are really hard for me to like get myself to stay in the seat to do. I find that co-working really helpful.
Excellent. Thank you all. I'm going to move to our last activity, which is brief. I'd like you to write yourself like a 2-sentence email, 2 sentences to be delivered when you feel like things are going to be really busy for you. Could be like in 2 weeks or could be in a month or whenever you feel like things are going to be really busy. Just a couple sentences, just restating your commitment or one of your most meaningful goals and encouraging you that you can do it. And then I want you to schedule send it, which is easy. If you don't schedule send, this is how you do it. You go into your Gmail. When you go to click send, click that little send option button. You go schedule send, and you can pick the day and time.
Oh, wow.
Oh, schedule send is so awesome. I use it all the time. Every time I write an email on the weekend, I use schedule send, for example, to have it delivered when I want it to be delivered.
I did. I hit the wrong thing. I said nothing.
Okay, I know that you are still working on that, but I also know John will need to kick us out so he can stop the recording and get things reset. So I'm putting the presentation out there for you. And this is the first time I've done this particular topic. So I would really appreciate if you would provide some feedback so we can figure out how to better shape it in case this is something that might be useful in the future as a reset for people. You also had some really great suggestions that I added to the slides. So the presentation that I'm sharing there is like the generic version. I'll do a better one and I'll email it to all of you so you can have the comments that you all added to our lists. It's great to see you all. Any final comments that you want to share?
I had an idea. If anyone wants an accountability buddy to follow up on their plan, I'm willing to do that. So you can email me, allison.aya@oswego.edu.
Thank you, Allison.
You're welcome.
We
And if a bunch of
appreciate it.
people respond, we can set up partners.
Excellent. And I had actually thought of offering that myself, and then I thought people are going to feel weird if it's the dean being like, you said you would do the thing. Did you do the thing? Because I think you can. I believe in you. Doesn't carry the same kind of message, does it? It's great to see all of you. I think you are all awesome. Just keep in mind, don't do more. You're all doing plenty. All doing plenty, not more. Just more control, right? Have a wonderful day. Thank you, John. We really appreciate you, and we really appreciate these sessions.
Thanks.
Thanks so much. This was great.
This was good.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day.